Ghost stories from the Tube, places of execution, and where bodies wash up on the Thames, from the tide, plus other gruesome tales from London. Let us guide you to 10 places to visit for Halloween spookiness. Are you ready? Stick with us, here we go! In the heart of the East End, we start here at Bethnal Green Station on the Central Line. Here, people have heard cries of anguish and even screams of children in the tunnels. There's no way of proving this, but they claim to hear the sounds of those that died in World War II. Here, on the 3rd of March 1943, just before 8 p.m, 173 people died. Just before the incident, London was in blackout. Loud sirens suddenly went off, and then there was a whirring noise, sounding just like a bomb. It was later found out it wasn't a bomb, and it was anti-aircraft rocket launching, but most people thought a bomb was coming. So, as was common at the time, everyone headed for cover, and Bethnal Green Tube Station was one of many stations used as air raid shelters. The crowds all headed for the narrow entrance, and suddenly a woman and a child slipped at the bottom of the stairs. This was a catalyst for lots of people to trip over one another, and in the dark, people started panicking, making more and more people fall, crushing those beneath them. In the event of the crush, 173 people lost their lives. Here we're on the north side of the Thames, under Tower Bridge, right by the Tower of London, a great place tourists love to walk past when they're going round to St Catherine's Dock. Here, visible behind a gate, is Dead Man's Hole. This alcove, situated underneath the northern side of Tower Bridge, is right by the water's edge and is essentially a mortuary. No longer a functioning one, but a remnant from Victorian times when bodies used to wash up on this particular area of the Thames with alarming regularity. The blue posts in front of you have got a set of steps going down, and I guess this is where they would have pulled the bodies out. It has been said that acting as a mortuary, bodies would be left here until they had been identified, or, was more often the case, buried anonymously. Now what sets this arch apart from many others are the gleaming white tiles, lots sleeker and less cobbled than a lot of the neighbouring pedestrian tunnels, and there's a reason for that, because apparently decomposing corpses can explode from trapped gases, and tiles are easier to wipe clean. Now, whether there's any truth in that isn't known, but it sounds like a good spooky reason to us. Welcome to the Hung, Drawn and Quartered pub on Great Tower Street, where it meets Lower Thames Street, right in the City of London, overlooking the Tower of London, and it's here for a reason. It was here where those sentenced to death by being hung, drawn and quartered were killed. The pub itself is amazing, with great food and also great drink, but just standing outside, seeing this plaque and standing here just takes you back into history and makes you think about what happened here in this spot in central London. This pub, formerly known as the Pelican and later as the Devil's Tavern, is now the Prospect of Whitby and has a history going way back when. The stone floor is all that remains of the original 400-year-old pub. In former times, it was a meeting place for sailors, smugglers, cutthroats and footpads. But what gives it its star attraction now is the fact that hanging Judge Jeffreys, scourge of the Monmouth Rebellion, used to drink here, and as a result, a replica gallows and noose hangs by the Thameside window, commemorating his custom. The execution dock here by the Wapping Old Stairs was generally used for pirates. Even now, as you pass the pub on a busy Uber taxi boat going from Canary Wharf to Tower Bridge, you can see the noose hanging there outside the Prospect of Whitby. Just as a reminder to anyone that should do any wrongdoings, not to do it on the Thames. Now we go into the foreboding Tower of London. The Tower of London has got quite a reputation for its executions and torture. Only 22 people have been executed at the Tower of London, and 11 of those were in the First World War. Here we go deep into one of the torture chambers, and we go and see what's in front of us here, which is the rack, which was used on Guy Fawkes in 1605 to force a confession out of him for the gunpowder plot. Another popular torture at the time was the scavenger's daughter, where a person was put into this cradle and the cradle was gently tightened, forcing once again confessions out of people. The Tower of London had quite a fearsome reputation for executions, and this is probably due to the fact that 3 queens were executed here. The last person executed at the Tower was 800 years after the first, on the 15th of August 1941, and was Joseph Jacobs, who was found guilty of spying for Germany during the Second World War and was executed by firing squad. The area had quite a reputation because it was here, just over the road from the Tower of London, on Tower Green, that most executions took place, with 112 people executed on the hill over a time period of 400 years. It was in this square here that the scaffold was built and was maintained. It's interesting to see, as you look at some of the names of people that were executed here, that they were either earls or barons or archbishops. I think in those times, when these things happened, it was always wise to agree with all other parties, just for your own life. One thing that can be said, the Tower of London area certainly had a grim past. Over the many years that London Bridge has been around, from when it was first built by the Romans in AD 55, it has taken many different forms, and the bridge you're looking at today was from 1973. But let's go way back in time, and you know the traditional English nursery rhyme, London Bridge is falling down. But did you know what the song's true meaning is? One of the creepiest theories suggests that the song is about child sacrifice. It was believed that in order to keep London Bridge upright, it must be built on a foundation of human sacrifice. And those same humans, mostly children, would help watch over the bridge and maintain its sturdiness. So think about that as you're passing under London Bridge next time on a river bus, or alternatively walking over the top of it. Welcome to Marble Arch, one of the busiest road junctions in the country. But what most people driving their cars around here don't know about is the Tyburn Tree. The tree was the site of public hangings, possibly established as early as 1108, but the first recorded execution was in 1196. This plaque in a busy junction marks the site of where this triangular shape was erected. In 1571, nearly 400 years later, a wooden scaffold was erected in a triangular shape, able to host 3 hangings simultaneously, which was perfect for a waiting crowd eager for some entertainment. Public hangings were extremely popular, and when the highwayman Jack Sheppard was hanged, it's said that the audience reached 200,000 people. And here's a fact you might not know. Hanging days were public holidays, and large crowds always gathered for the spectacle, not for the death itself, but for the dramatic speeches that preceded the hangings. A last-minute confession, a defiant denial also went down well. But it's these speeches that led to the tradition of public speaking, and eventually Speaker's Corner being established right on the corner of Hyde Park by this site. I love the fact that millions of cars drive past here every year, and yet hardly anyone knows what this site was originally used for. In the heart of the West End, on the Piccadilly line, lays Covent Garden Tube Station. Since the station first opened its doors, there have been stories of a tall man in a hat and a cloak wandering round the corridors after dark. It has terrified some of the tube workers so much that they have requested a move to less haunted underground stations. The character is reportedly an actor, William Terrace, who was murdered in 1897. He used to frequent a bakery that once stood on the site of Covent Garden Tube Station and now stalks the corridors and tunnels instead. The question is he looking to avenge his death, or did someone sell him a dodgy croissant? Either way, if you're down in the tunnel and you bump into Bill, you might want to run the other way. And our final place to visit is here, Charterhouse Square in Farringdon. And doesn't it look really attractive as a square with its rolling lawn and its beautiful buildings around it, like any typical London square? But it's got a dark, deep, hidden secret. Much like the site underneath Aldgate Station, Charterhouse Square was known for its deep plague pit. 7 years ago, under these lawns, it was discovered a large burial pit for plague victims dating back to 1348 to 1350, the time of the Black Death in London. When those working on the Crossrail project dug up the bones, they did some DNA and isotope tests from the skeletons and revealed that not only were they buried in 1348, 1361, but also in the early 15th century as all the outbreaks reoccurred. It just goes to show that while the area looks beautiful, you never know what quite lurks down, deep and underneath. I hope you've enjoyed our visit around 10 different places in London with a bit of horrible history behind it. And if you like historic items and historic places in London, I've put a playlist up in the top right hand corner of other historical places that you can visit in London. So if you click on the link on there, I'll see you in there very shortly.